Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today I'm making a return to our campaign recaps. So the current campaign that I'm running with D&D BECMI is the Seven Realms of Karador, and we had recently, over the last couple of weeks, done two and a half more sessions. So this is going to be a recap number 2 and 3 of the completion of their earlier adventure in the area around the city of Conde and centered in the refugee camp of Conde. So they had two adventures in this region. One was to a farm, which I dealt with in recap number 1, where they had gone to a farm and they were investigating the loss of livestock, and they had to kill 2 giant bats, who that was presumed to be the culprit or culprits of the loss of the livestock, but it actually turned out to be more likely a lone harpy, which the party had dispatched and ended up looting and doing what they needed to do as far as their various independent side quests were concerned. And then the next step was to go into a crypt that was a crypt of a local family of great wealth, but of mysterious background. And there was a disturbance at this family crypt, where the neighbors surrounding the cemetery were claiming that they were hearing these strange sounds and whatnot coming from there. And so the party had set out to go into the crypt, and I'll walk you through somewhat of what was going on in the first portion. Even though the map is reset to the second section, you'll see what I'm talking about when I get there. But they had gone through the first session, then came back out of it again because they hit a roadblock, and I'll explain. And then when they returned and completed it. And so that's what took a bulk of sessions 2 and 3. We also had some membership changes. So we began with our core 5 members, but over the course of the last 3 weeks or so, we've ended up replacing the dwarf noggin with a new dwarf character, Battlehammer, who has not played with the group yet. He was only just met us last week, and we've replaced the halfling character Casbin with a new halfling character, Fenguin. And so Fenguin did take part in the last adventure, so we're going to pick up from there. All right, so going to our map. So here we have the crypt map, and this is on Roll20. And this is the entrance area that they came into. And let me just, sorry. So just give me a moment. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. My family decided now is the time to play with the dog. So, excuse me. So here's the entranceway. And so when the party came into this room here, they noticed this blood spot. There was a skeletal remains here. And while they were looking through, the thief actually did not detect anything, and nor did the dwarf of the group anything out of the ordinary with this, other than these two, this blood stain and the bones here. And then they were attacked by two rock spiders. The the elf of the group was poisoned by one of the rock spiders before they managed to kill off the spiders, and so they had to do some treatment of the elf. They did not have, an antidote for the poison itself, and no means magical means of curing the poison. But because the leader of the party, or the unofficial leader of the party, Brother Karador, the priest, did take swift action in trying to use somewhat common medical understanding of how to deal with a poisonous bite. And so I managed that the elf, although nearly died, didn't quite, succumb to the poison, and would then continue through the rest of the adventure, just somewhat diminished in hit points. They had come on through here, and as you can see, there were all of these crypts here, although this area did not have the ghouls. It was skeletons and zombies. And they had fought a number of skeletons and zombies all the way through here, where they encountered a third level magic user with several skeleton and zombie minions, basically. And during the combat, the magic user had made his way over to this altar space over here. And this here is a door. So this door was sealed. And what he did was he managed to, pull this lever and get through. And then this here was a wall of fire, magical fire that they could not go beyond. They did not have a dispel magic or any kind of fire resistance or anything, and I made it fairly clear when they did start to approach it that they doubted that they could survive going through. So they ended up gathering what information and loot that they could from here. They departed. They returned later with two abilities to dispel magic. One had learned the spell, and they also had a scroll with two dispel magics spells on the scroll. So they were able to get beyond this point, and this is where they started running into these cult members. So these are cult. The cult is of the deity Yog, which is from the Hyborian Age pantheon. So Robert E. Howard's Hyborian Age. I use for my BECMI campaign in my world setting. I use a combination of Hyborian deities and the demi-human and humanoid deities from Dungeons and Dragons. So humans and humans for the most part worship the deities of the Hyborian world. So they came in and they fought these guards here, handled them pretty well. As they came through, they came down this corridor. Now their fighter had come on down here, and he spiked this door to make sure that they could not be attacked from behind once they entered here, which was kind of an interesting move. That was War Turtle that had done that. So he had come over here, spiked this door, and then they continued. When they got to this corner here, one stepped forward. Again, War Turtle, the fighter, stepped forward and engaged two spearmen here. The one engaged him, the other ran off. Meanwhile, the rest of the party ended up fighting off into this area. This was that third level magic user, third level cleric that they had fought, and this was his bodyguard. So they had come in here and they had a battle with these two. They had subdued, or he had surrendered. Once the cleric was killed, he had surrendered, but the party decided ultimately that because this cult is such an evil cult, that they didn't want to mess with dragging him around with them, so they simply executed him. We had somewhat of a talk about, whether that was within. It's certainly not a lawful good thing, but the realm itself of Karador is closer to lawful neutral than it is to any of the good alignments, and so I was convinced that this would not be in direct violation of anyone's alignment, which we don't focus on very much anyhow. So once they were done here, they came down into this area here, and this was a ward, and they made some ability checks and detected that this was in fact a magical ward. They encountered this ghost who was being blocked from escaping this particular area, and fortunately for them, because a ghost in BECMI is actually a 15 hit die entity, and if they played this wrong, the ghost would have ended up attacking them and most likely wiping out the entire group. But they played it out pretty well, and they cast their Dispel Magic on the ward itself, and because of the area of effect of that Dispel Magic, it actually included just about this area here, which included a lock that was on the casket itself. See, they had assumed that this spirit was of this ghost was upset or not able to go to rest, and that's because of the being locked outside of its casket, and they still don't know the reasoning behind that, but they as I said, fortunately did not attack the ghost. They released the ghost, ended up smashing the lock off of the casket because they could not, that the thief did not manage to pick the lock, and they didn't have the key, just yet. Once they released the ghost had passed beyond them, and once again, this was kind of a stroke of luck for them. The ghost had gone beyond them and ended up killing this bodyguard and this 8th level cleric, who was kind of the mastermind behind the whole thing. The ghost was actually the ghost of his grandmother, and so he's connected to the crypt as a member of this family, and all of his designs are still unknown to the rest of the characters, or to my players. So they looted this area. They opened up this coffin. The cleric had sanctified the coffin, and then the ghost returned. Oh, that's not the ghost. The ghost returned, settled into her coffin. He solemnly closed the coffin lid, thus putting her spirit to rest. They had then departed into this area, found a key, which they discovered went to this chest, and also unlocked the passageway to the up to the mansion itself. They did not go further on into this area up over here, and there were several more encounters for them to engage in. And that really goes to, if they had decided to come this way first, they would have come on down over to here and potentially ended up engaging with the eighth level cleric and the bodyguard themselves before they had encountered the ghost. Or if they had come from this direction, perhaps this thief would have come down and warned the cleric that they were coming, and they would have met them someplace around over here to begin with. So just by luck of which direction they went to, kind of changed the whole scenario of how it could have gone. So once they had, and I'll switch views. So once they had completed that, they returned back to their various mentors to get some more information. Many of them had leveled up to second level, and in some cases nearly third level. The cleric is actually nearly third level because he had done all 4 sections of the campaign so far. And even though the magic user, the elf, and the fighter were all there for all of those as well, just the difference in the number of experience points needed, he's moving up a little bit faster than they had done. So right at this point now, they are preparing to go on a side adventure that the thief had received, because one of the treasures that she had gotten from the crypt here was a treasure map, which is one of the higher level or higher quality treasures that you can get from the random random generator, and so it's a treasure map that is to lead to a magic item of some kind. So they are going to follow up on that adventure next. So far through the one kind of prolonged entry adventure, the players have brought their characters up from first level to second, and some, as I said, close to third level. They have picked up several new spells along the way, spell scrolls, which they've then transcribed to their spell books, both the magic user and the elf, and between those two. And they've collected a number of potions and started learning about how to identify some common potions that they've come across now, multiple versions of them. And they've also picked up 2 incredible pieces of magic items. They actually picked up a matching pair of +1 swords that are silvered swords, +1 swords, and both can cast a Cure Light Wound spell once per day, which once again is a very high quality roll on a random treasure that they had come to, and it just happened that they rolled it, and they rolled 2 of the best results that they could have. So they're pretty much set up pretty well for the next adventure. And their next adventure will be taking place on this Friday, and that's going to be a whole new experience, because now they've left behind their introductory. We have 2 new players, or actually 1 new player, and 2 new characters, really, to start fleshing out and seeing how they play with the rest of the group. And so far, it's been going very, very well. I'm going to do, because I'm waiting for some of my, I finally completed my collection of the BECMI booklets, because I've been buying the booklets, and I'm expecting the last three to come in the mail over the next 2 weeks. I've actually been waiting for the companion rules books for about 5 days now. They're running late in the U.S. Postal Service, and then I've just ordered these two here. So the Master Set and the Immortal Set. I have plans of running this campaign through at least the 3 books. The next book actually takes you from 4 to 14, so that's a long stretch if you're familiar with BECMI. It does take a long time to level up, and we've been pretty much keeping to the true to the rules of BECMI so far. And I'm going to have a separate video and talk about the differences of BECMI versus the rules cyclopedia, and go over that, and go over my reasoning why I chose to run the campaign using BECMI as the core of the rules that I'm using. And when I say core, I mean like 90% of the rules that I'm using are coming from just BECMI, and in the order that they take place. So it's almost like a as the players move their characters up through the progression of levels, more and more of these new techniques, let's say, will become available to them as being trained in these newer ways of doing things. So rather than just be it a rule has changed, it's no, just that the level of training has changed, and now they can pick up some of these new possibilities that weren't there from the beginning, but only because they've hit certain levels. So once again, thank you for joining. Though I hope you are enjoying these recaps. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up. If you hadn't subscribed, please consider subscribing. If there's any suggestions you'd like to make, or if you'd like to talk about your own experience with BECMI, please leave the comments there in the comments section. I read them all, I get back to them, and I love to see what you have to say about them. And I'm starting to build up a kind of an alternates group. So if you do want to play in any of these games, just drop me a line here or on Facebook. So it's Edward James Bloodworth on Facebook, or you can, like I said, you could just leave a little comment here, and I will find you. And the Karador campaign is running on Roll20, so you could always search that out as well, and see. Although it's currently not listed as recruiting, but you could certainly find the game, and I'll consider sending you an invite if you're really intent on joining the group. So once again, enjoy the upcoming week. Stay safe out there, and I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon, particularly next weekend. Next weekend, I am running during the Con of Champions. 2 sessions. One is of this campaign world, although you might get a different adventure than what I just went over now, and then the other is I'm running Keep on the Borderlands on Monday morning at I believe it's 10 o'clock Central. It'll be running 11 o'clock Eastern. And so if you're interested in playing BECMI next weekend, Sunday and Monday, I have 2 game sessions available there. And I'll probably leave a link for the con in the description of this video as well. So once again, be safe out there. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. You'll have a good afternoon.